Hey everybody, Justin Weber, Amps and Sound. I wanted to share what is my current speaker and something that's been really a special project for about the last 2-3 years for me. I used to use Klipsch style speakers for the better part of 15 years. Uh, Klipsch still makes a wonderful product and I really, really love them, but they are most focused on moving forward. And Altec, though no longer a speaker company, really has a very, very strong home in their heritage. And when I think about some of the best music I ever thought of growing up as a child, the Altec systems were part of the monitoring process. And the narrative of that was really special to me. And you can still get reproductions of Altec drivers. So if you're willing to learn and build for yourself, you can build better than new Altec speakers. The charm of that, or import of that, I find really captivating. So I've built two Altec speakers, both 604 style, and then I built something closer to a Godzilla speaker that was far too big for my home. The first 604 used an Altec 612 cabinet. The Altec community will tell you that the 612 cabinet is far too small and you need at least an Altec 620 cabinet. The 612 cabinet is 2 feet by 18 inches deep by 2.5 feet tall. It's a big cabinet. It's really wide is the problem. And I still have it. It's my office. I love it. It'll never leave. But I wanted to reimagine that. Me being this person who's built Klipsch Cornwalls for as long as I can remember and loving Tenoys and having owned a set of 604Es before, wanted something that was better than what's called a utility cabinet that an Altec might have come in, and was smaller than a Cornwall. And so we ran the numbers, and this is the cabinet we were able to come up with. And I think it looks sort of like a cross between a Tenoy cabinet and a Klipsch cabinet put together. It doesn't really remind me of an Altec cabinet at all. Things that we did that were different, so we're front porting just with a circular port. It's 1.5 inches or 2 inches deep if I remember correctly, and it's a 4-inch port. Our baffle is constrained layer. It's if I remember correctly, it's 1.5 inches thick. So it's 3/4 ply, 3/4 MDF. We dadoed the baffle into the entirety of the cabinet. And then we built a girder for the back. It looks like a sort of a hollowed out figure 8. And that is also dadoed in so that the cabinet is really, really stiff. We put our deflectors, which we learned to do long ago, into the corners so there's no right angles. And it's pretty well braced. The Altec driver I got from Great Plains Audio is the Altec 604G with the ferrite magnet. I went with the ferrite magnet because for 2 reasons. One, the Alnica was a heck of a lot more expensive, and the ferrite magnet actually moved the voice coils closer to each other, thinking that I was going to get greater phase coherence and time alignment mechanically. So that's why I chose that. I've done a lot of good work with Al Klappenberger. So the drivers went out to Al, and Al designed for us a custom fourth order Litz Riley network. Most people would tell you that the failing of the Altec 604 is from its crossover. And I would say that's probably true. The crossover that I got with it from Great Plains, I didn't think was a usable solution. Their drivers are amazing, but that crossover for my purposes didn't work, and that's okay. And so it really gave me the impetus to go to Al and ask for help. And so with Al's help, we made sure that we had minimal driver overlap, right? And so some of the anomalous bad things that you would think about as far as the 604's behavior were really minimized by going to a high order network. So built the high order network, popped it in the cabinet, and have been enjoying it for the better part of 6 months, 8 months now. And I would say it's every bit as good, but different than my corn scalas have been. Um, and is certainly the most hi-fi sounding I've ever heard a 604 sound. With the articulation and detail that I don't know that I had heard before. We are now going to work on cabinet resonance control. So I have some really interesting organic materials to try that a collaborator suggested, and that'll be sort of my winter project is stiffening the cabinet, not stiffening, but dampening the cabinet correctly will be the winter project. The veneer came from GL veneer, and it's a cedar. It's nothing particularly special. It's a kind of a busy design, but I didn't want black. I wanted something with some personality. So baffle was in black. The veneer is cedar, looks really wonderful. One of the curious things about a 604 is that the horn mouth for the compression driver, which is right here, protrudes out, and no one can tell you, no one really can inform you as to how much it protrudes out. So what we did is we actually made a custom grill. It was almost 3 inches thick and solid. And I think we have like 12 neodymium magnets holding it in, so it never vibrates. We actually have some felt stops to make it so there's no vibration, even when you're playing it really, really loudly or hard. But by having the baffle so very, very heavy, it's sort of mass loaded the cabinet in a different way that's been really kind of fun to experiment with. So what does this mean for the average audiophile? The Great Plains audio drivers are expensive, but they're not unobtainable. And if you buy 2 Altec 604 drivers from Great Plains, you have the same drivers that were used in the mastering, in the artist playback speakers for Miles Davis, Frank Sinatra. The same drivers that were used in the control booths that mastered some of the greatest audio recordings that ever existed. There are better speakers for sure, but short of a BBC LS35A, there's nothing that has more recording chop provenance than a 604. And it's a 16-inch huge woofer. It's kind of cool. So think about it. It might be a fun project. Thanks.